What's going on, everybody? Ernest White II here, coming to you direct from a hotel room in Delhi, India, where we are filming another episode of Fly Brother with Ernest White II. But I wanted to come on here today to chat with my brother, Mr. Justin J.C. Collins, who is here today. He is my nutritionist and trainer and good friend, and he is all about the heart set and mindset required to get the type of body that you want so you can be in the world the way you want to be. And so I'm super stoked and excited to have you here today, my brother, talking about a very specific topic, which is how to stay nutritious on the road, how to stick to a nutrition plan and actually find the kinds of things that are supportive to your body while you're out traveling, be it by car, by plane, by ship. JC, thank you for being here today, my brother.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, man. So listen, just to give a bit of background, we've been working together for nearly 3 years now. It's been a journey. What I appreciate is that you've held me accountable with the weekly check-ins, with, constant support whenever I've been out and about. You're available whenever I need some insight on a menu or when I need support in not choosing Wendy's, when I'm in need of a little caloric love, when I'm feeling like I need some bread stat. So anyway, man, it's just, you're coming to it with such professionalism, but also personality. Before we get into the tips, tell us a little bit about, how you got into the space and what you do for yourself with regard to nutrition.
Excellent. Well, how I got into this space was I got out of another space, and that space was basically being up about 50 pounds. And, going back to the sweets and the treats, that was my downfall. Love the Cheesecake Factory. Big shout out. Ate there 6 days a week. But it
Wait, we're not
doesn't.
shouting them out. They're not underwriting this.
I always give them credit because they contributed to me gaining lots of weight. But,
Okay, the catalyst.
yeah, they were the catalyst. But the fun thing was, within that journey, getting to what I did not like was probably the most important part. Having extra weight, almost 50 pounds, lack of confidence, lack of self-belief, not showing up as powerfully as I could, and not reaching my potential or exceeding it, but being far below it. And with all the things I wanted to do with my careers, especially what I do now, none of that was possible. And I was not in a position to lead anyone by showing up completely out of shape. I can't tell someone to do something when I'm not embodying that and living that. So that was the first part of the journey. And just like I'm a coach to many, I found a coach. It's actually the first person, known this person for 10 plus years. And they told me what was going to happen when I finished playing college basketball. Because they're like, you're just going to eat, you're going to pack on pounds, you need to learn how to eat properly and exercise properly. And I was like, I'll figure it out. Didn't work that way. Went to them, they're like, I told you so. And they helped me learn. And through learning, I was able to lose that 50 pounds, get my confidence back better than ever, full belief, self-belief, and showing up as my absolute best every single day, which led to the start of Fitness by JC because my mess actually turned into my message, which was very important. And then from that point, the habits that I've learned are the same things that I teach you, that I teach everyone else, just every single day, your daily habits of following proper nutrition, exercising, drinking water, simple things, and keeping your habits when you're at home similar to your habits on the road. Because if you're always winning, you can't lose.
I don't even know how to follow that up, but I will take a swig of my water. Because we encourage hydration in this community.
Good hydration.
But yeah, man, I mean, I think it's important, as you said, like for you to have experienced it yourself. You know what it's like to not feel your best, to feel bloated, out of shape. I don't know if that's what you felt, but I know if I was eating at the Cheesecake Factory and 50 pounds over my goal weight, I would feel bloated, out of shape. Even if it may not be as large a weight discrepancy as other people may have. You never know what journeys people are dealing with. Body dysmorphia is a real thing that people struggle with no matter how they look on the outside. And so a lot of that, I think that makes you more relatable, right? It makes people kind of look at you as somebody who understands what the struggle is like. What were some of your go-to foods that helps you feel helps you ease the pain of whatever might have been ailing you?
I mean, when it was the tough foods, I would say the ones that contributed to a lot of weight gain, it's always sweets. It still is the same. It's still sweets now. It's just now I have the self control. But back then, not joking, every single day was some slice of cheesecake, whether it was
Oof.
Oreo cheesecake, double fudge cheesecake, the peanut butter cup. I mean, I could rattle off that entire menu off memory. It's bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it was real bad. I even had like there was a semi rewards program because I went through the drive through where I lived. They had a drive through window and they bring your food to the car. And I got cool with the girl that used to do it. It was the same girl. Her name was actually Brittany. I'll give her shoot her name out there. But she would bring out extra slices. I would order one and she'd give me two. So it was a horrible opportunity. Great food, but that was always the one that would ease the pain. It was always the sweets. If I had a bad day, rough day, stressful day, it was going for a piece of cake. Maybe later, late night might have been pizza. But that was like if I had just gotten sick of cake, I would go for the slices. And it was always minimum one large pizza, minimum. If you're a little bit more hungry, might have been Domino's had a special, three mediums for like $15. That was also on the menu, so I could recall all the downfall foods that took me down a certain road. And then
Sure.
that road had to stop and we had to pivot and go the other way. So now it's the same stuff, just in moderation, which helps you have that balance of still having fun, but also keeping things together.
I'm smiling because so I too had a Britney in my life, but see, I don't have a sweet tooth. For me, it's the savory, salty, and breads, which obviously have sugars. But I mean,
Yes.
in terms of the flavor palette, like in fact, I may have had cheesecake once ever at the Cheesecake Factory, and I do enjoy it. But I was like, well, this is too much sugar. Um, but the pizza, and the reason I say I've had because I've gone to drive-throughs where they have given me all kinds of extra fries, just like there's something. It feels like they're trying to fatten me up.
Yep.
Like, see,
Just a little extra, a little extra.
exactly. Try, as a way of seducing me, if you will. It's like, see, baby, I got you.
Yeah, just
I'll
a little
keep you
bit. That
full.
yeah, just feed you. You'll keep coming back.
Exactly. Um, well, then, what was that point where you had to, that kind of got you switching tracks? What was the end of the road for you?
The end of the road was actually a multitude of things. The first thing was just looking at, say, for example, on that actor model fitness track.
Mm-hmm.
You can't book jobs if you're out of shape. And it really got to the point where when I was going for auditions, thousands of them at this point, but it was to the point where it was every time, okay, we have lines to deliver, but are they going to notice my shirt fits a little bit too tight? Are they going to notice my stomach's a little bit pudgy? Are they going to notice my face a little bit bloated? And then now you're thinking of all the wrong things when you're supposed to be focusing on your performance. So then it started to get that level of dejection, like every audition's automatically a fail because they're looking at me a certain way and you're subconscious of things you shouldn't even be worrying about.
Mm.
And that led to I'm not showing up as my best, which is leading me to not book jobs. And you can't have a career if you're not booking anything. So that was the first piece. The second piece was just, trying to do things that I used to do on autopilot, like say running, which I used to do for basketball all the time. I'd run and would be completely gassed, in like a snap of a finger. And this was for what I used to be able to do was a complete, just trash for a better lack of a better word. But the third thing was the biggest
I
one.
feel you.
And that was probably the more serious note. My mom died. Tough moment,
Mm.
very tough. And obviously, she passed away from cancer. But when that was happening, I had so many plans that I wanted to basically like prove out and to achieve. And she was part of so many of those things. And when that happened, it was a kind of a wake up call. Like you thought you had so much time to accomplish all these things. And one of the main driving forces was now gone. And how would this person, now that they're gone, and this is a long story, very short, how would this person want you to live your life with them basically watching you from above? Like your every move, they're watching it now. Like, are you going to do them the right way? Or are you going to just basically keep going down this path of demise? Like, how would she be proud of you? And it was always, well, she would be proud of me if I achieved my potential, if I lived my best life, if I went after my dreams full force. So when that happened, I just had to look in the mirror and say, are you doing those things? And the answer was absolutely not. You have no accountability. You have no intentionality. Your work ethic is poor. Your discipline is garbage. And these are all things that when you add them all up, they're putting you exactly where you should be in the present, which is not where you want to be. And that was a sour feeling because you have to eat that. That's you put yourself there. But at the same time, if I put myself in the hole, I figured that I could also dig myself out. And that's when the journey first started, where it was, how can I do this? And it wasn't looking from step A to step Z. It was just one foot in front of the other. What's the first win that I can get? Maybe it's just showing up and telling myself that I can do it. Maybe it's just when there's a piece of pizza, maybe you don't eat it. Maybe when the cheesecake is calling your name, you say, hey, you know what? I've been down this road. I have to say no. And eventually I started developing the willpower, started to get a little bit out of the hole, see above the ground. And that's when I was able to see help. And I realized, you know what, at this stage in the game, to accelerate your results, you only know so much. And it's time to be vulnerable, say, hey, I need some help, and ask. And that's what led to the next steps of the journey, connecting to coaching and, getting myself fully out of the hole and back on my feet. And that process took a while. It took almost 8 years. So this didn't happen overnight. And I know things might look great now, but they were not great for a long time. And I always make sure that people know that they were rock bottom for quite some time.
Mm. Well, I appreciate that honesty and vulnerability. And,
Hey, no problem.
quite often, again, when we have a shiny package, when we look like, the what people think perfection looks like, it's often challenging to connect in a way because they
Yeah.
don't see us as having, or see you.
You're in the same boat. You're in the same boat.
As being relatable. No, but as we were talking about earlier, see, I got muffin top. Like I've got recently I posted a video tap dancing with a buddy of mine. We were promoting a show that was happening in Vancouver, and all I could see was just a little bit of bouncing in my midsection, which I mean, I'm tapping. Like I'm literally stomping up and down, and gravity and all of the other things. But all I'm doing is focusing on the fact that somebody's going to look at that punch.
Yep.
And you know what, man? I was 380 pounds when I graduated high school. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is, again, mentioning that body dysmorphia. It's like looking for the imperfections, and that is not something I want to be doing with regularity. And I don't do it anymore, but
Yeah.
it's still there just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it serves a purpose. It allows me to say, okay, well, you know what, this is not something that I want to be creating in my life, and so therefore let me hop on the horn with JC, let me get my little workout plan together, my nutrition plan, and see what we can do about that, but also be very present. And I think that's what you were getting to, what you were alluding to earlier, was just presence, the one step at a time aspect of it. We want a weekend transformation where all of a sudden, we've got the body we've always wanted, we've got the mindset, the money, the relationship, all of these different things. And I certainly am guilty of that too, of wanting instantaneous everything. But, that's really just a recipe for dissatisfaction and for dis-ease, and simply, looking for the next, as opposed to just being like, okay, you know what, the now is where I'm at. And there are things that can be done in the now to get me to where I want to be, and just allowing that to happen.
Yeah. Just the process of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in terms then of talking about nutrition, right? When you start off and when you started off and when you start people off with working with you, how do you come up with a plan that allows you to kind of be in the moment, be present, put one foot in front of the other, and at the same time hit these medium and long-term goals?
Excellent question. I feel it's the basic starting point of making things as easy as possible. I wouldn't call it setting the bar low, but to give that example, instead of say for an example of working out, maybe have one workout per day, not I'm going to do 3 a days this week. One is probably a high bar, one's a low bar. Same thing with going into, say, for example, developing someone's nutrition plan. It's, hey, you know what? I went through this process. Those cravings you have, they're barking at you every day, just like they were last week. Mistakes are going to happen, but let's do the best that we can to follow our meal plan, just to follow the map, just like you would In your car, you throw the GPS on, tells you exactly where to go step by step. And when you at least have a guide, you at least know if you're eating off the plan, you can put yourself back on the plan. And you also look at it from a perspective of, as you're starting in the journey, mistakes are going to happen. If you make, let's say, 20 mistakes this week, well, next week, let's just make 19. You're one better. The week after that, let's make 18. And by default, 20 weeks later, you're out of mistakes. Now you've learned and worked your way through the process. You've learned what it's like to make the mistakes and see the lack of results, and then make a lack of mistakes and see an abundance of results. It has the flip flop. And it's just having the patience, because I knew I didn't figure it out overnight. And I think that's one thing I'm able to always go back to the ground level and understand. And I'll do weird challenges. This is a side note exclusive for the community here. I'll do challenges with myself just to better relate to clients on things I don't typically do. So, for example, when I first moved to Miami years back, it was, obviously Miami, beautiful place, lots going on. Every day's a party, but also people are working, but they'll never say no to a party. So as soon as I moved here, it was just for the first 3 weeks, whenever someone says we're going to get a drink, I'm going to go every single time. And every night, my lady's like, let's go get some food. Let's go get a drink. So for 3 weeks straight, I was like, I want to see how I feel in 3 weeks, because I knew it would take about 1 week for my body to be like, what's happening? Second week to not like it. Third week to be like, what are you doing? So I was like, in 3 weeks, I'll have a smart trial of understanding what it's like to have a lot of excess food and drink, and understand how I feel, how I look, where my weight is, how lethargic I might be, anything that I can feel. So that when my clients go through it, I just did it. It's different, and I'm not saying do this. I understand as soon as I knew and got the sample size, right back to business. But that's from years of having reps of knowing I can turn it on and turn it off. But I don't typically do that. It's only for a specific purpose, to go back to the ground level and understand. Because you might have 10, 15 years, 20 years since you've done certain things. And sometimes it's nice to have that refresher. Just like, say, with traveling. There's traveling with a very strict diet, traveling with maybe a hybrid diet of some fun and some strict, and then cut and loose. So I can see all three of those aspects, how my body is going to feel, how it's going to look, all the numbers and metrics. Did my clothes tight? Do they feel fine? Is the scale up? Is it the same? Is it less? So I can always relate who I'm talking to. If they're in position A, I know where to tell them and where to take them. If they're going position C, I can tell them this is what's going to happen. This what'll happen when you're there, and this is how you're going to feel when you get home. So if you've been going ham all vacation, you get home and that scale's 10 pounds up, you're not ready to just jump off a ledge. You're like, he did tell me that was going to happen, but he also told me what's the next step. So now you feel supported, and you're able to go with confidence to that next step, knowing you're going to get yourself back to where you should be. And then as long as you follow the steps, you do. So it just, you gain that knowledge base of, you're starting to figure out what I can and can't get away with. And that's a big part of learning, just getting that balance down.
Mm-hmm. And that's everything in life, not just nutrition, but obviously, this is one of the things that you can kind of see the results right away or relatively quickly versus other elements of life.
Yeah.
It's in your physical being and aspect.
Yeah.
You get to kind of have this trial and error. And I appreciate that you are able to, you got the awareness to know the space that you can play around in order to create something relatable with your clients.
Yeah.
And so I laugh when you mention my clothes tight. I mean, my clothes are always tight because I always that's my style. But I get clothes that are a bit, kind of snug because I want to try to make sure that I'm fitting into them. And I'm
you got to stay the part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they're tight, because I want to not be gaining weight. But yes, I have had many experiences when I've come back from the road and been up 5 or even 10 pounds and been upset about it.
Yeah.
Because I did not go ham. And yet, and I think that's the thing. It's when things get sneaky. It's when you feel like you may have loosened things up a little bit, simply because in my case, it's one thing when I'm at home and I can cook for myself and I can, make sure I'm following the plan because I've got the means at my disposal to do it. But when I'm out and trying to grab something really quickly between flights, or the only thing that they even have available are those Biscoff cookies on a 5-hour flight somewhere, and it's like, I'm starving.
Yep.
Like it's like there's just so many factors out of your control, or at least out of the kind of control that you want.
Yes.
You may have choice, but the choices aren't optimal often when you're traveling, and more so when you're flying than when you're actually driving someplace. So if we can just look at the flying aspect, how do how would someone like me or our audience members find nutritious foods while they're traveling?
Excellent question. When it comes down to, say, traveling, flying, figuring things out, just like I would do with clients, if it's in the US flight or even out of the US flight, it would just be always number one, eat before you leave, just to make sure you have something in your stomach. Because if you don't eat, you're walking into the airport, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, let me get a Big Mac, let me get,
Auntie
and that,
Annie's.
yeah, exactly. Cinnabon. I mean, they smell delicious, but they will trip you up every time. But those little tiny things, like making sure, number one, you eat before you leave. The second thing would be, let's say on a like a preparation step. It could be just like I'd advise clients where maybe you bring small snacks that you can put into your pockets, into a backpack. For my ladies, a purse. If you have maybe a carry-on, I'll have carry-ons where all I put is a box of protein bars and say it's like 8 protein bars. I know that's going to last me at least one every 2 hours if I'm keeping it together. So if I have a long flight, that'll at least buy me through the flight. So then when I land in the airport, I'm not just scattering for food the first thing I see, which can be, for most times, if you're flying, maybe you don't eat on the plane. Let's say the minute you land, you are ready to go. And if all that's there is chicken nuggets and fries, well, that's what it's going to be. And, when you have that ability and maybe prepare for that, it at least gives you something where you have a safety net. Where you're in the air, oh, I don't have to have this. I don't have to have the cookies. I can go with something that I packed. Could be something simple like an apple. Piece of fruit, super easy. You can always find it somewhere. It could be simple like when you do actually land, if there's an ability to check the airport that you're flying into, what do they have at the areas that you're going to be getting off of your gate? Do they have, certain places that are sit down, you can get something feasible? Or is it kind of grab and go stuff? Because even with those little stands, they probably have water instead of a Pepsi or a Coke. They probably have some type of a fruit or vegetable or some type of a pre-made salad that you can probably just grab and go on the fly. Instead of just saying, well, let me go get this, handmade pizza and some tacos because it's right there. A lot of it is just understanding preparation aspect, I'd say, is the biggest. Just making sure that if you bring something with you, that gets you good on the way to the plane, on the plane, perhaps off. If it gets to the point where you do not have that option, when you're on the plane, just drink water. If you have the ability to do that. If they're serving food, just make a wise choice. And that would probably be, don't go with the ice cream or the brownie. If they're offering something, like, keep the ingredients as simple as you can, is what I always say. Less ingredients, the better. And that at least will glide you into where you're going. If there's most airports, there's probably some type of like mini mart convenience store. They have something you can grab, even something quick like a protein brand, like a protein bar, protein shake. Super easy. Going to get you quick calories, quick protein, and it's going to avoid the McDonald's line, which is always long, by the way. But these are little tiny things that will kind of help guide you as you're transporting yourself from one place to the next, to not have that, I wasn't prepared, I'm starving, first choice that I see. It's always going to end in demise. And if you're trying to keep it together and you make that first domino fall of that bad choice, usually more bad choices follow. And that's how you get yourself kind of in a tough spot.
So it's always going to end in demise.
Yeah, demise is coming. Your decisions equal your demise. That's why you got to make the right
I know
ones.
it's just stakes is high.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted a taco on me.
Even in the good thing I will
Tacos
say
are
about
gonna be
tacos though, because that was a question someone asked this week, so I'll use that as an example. Something simple like, say, a Mexican restaurant or some Spanish type of cuisine. It could have, say, tacos, and instead of getting maybe the shell, maybe just get a bowl, and it has just steak and vegetables, or chicken and vegetables, or shrimp and vegetables. These are easy choices where maybe you don't have to go like the super home run crunch wrap with all the toppings. Maybe you keep it simple, like a simple protein and veggies, and you keep it moving. Like, you're just getting something in your belly. You're not necessarily eating because you want to have like the most sexiest meal on the menu type thing.
You see, you be knowing the names of these foods. The
I
crunch
I
wrap.
used to go hard. I could. the memory bank is always and forever long for that period of time where I was going pretty hard with food. So I'm always going to get those names right on point. I used to eat them.
No, I mean that's good, man. That's good. See, that's interesting because I've avoided that stuff for a long time. Um, so that kind of brings us to the sneaky factor of foods, right? And I think for me, it would be two things that would work in tandem. Let's say against me.
Mhm.
One would be portion size, right? Because again, when I'm at home, I can control it. And even being at home, like going into an office a couple times a week, or just being around in my own environment, it's easier than when I'm on the road, right? But then also, the more working out I do, the more running around filming I do, I get hungry,
Yep.
right? And so then it's the portion size control gets a little shaky. And then the other thing would be things that and I'm assuming salt as well as sugars that kind of sneak into the diet where you think you're eating something that's relatively light or that is relatively healthy, but at the same time, it's really not.
Yeah.
And certainly working against what you're trying to do, which is, not just lose weight or reduce your pounds, amount of pounds, but to build a healthier machine, right?
Yeah.
To kind of, optimize our earth vehicles, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I know that's probably a lot in there, but I think, when people are thinking about their nutrition, there is a lot. It's all mixed in there together. It's
Yeah.
like, it's not just, I'm thinking in these different verticals about how I can do this and tweak that. That's why we're here, to talk to people like you who are able to think from kind of more of a scientific perspective, if you will. So yeah, man, just how do we kind of let's say avoid the sneaky ways in which you're working against yourself?
Absolutely. And I would say the first thing is I would say the CM rule or CS rule is common sense. That's like the first thing. Like say for example, you're cooking at your house and you have chicken, some rice, and a vegetable. And you're always cooking the same size piece of chicken. And then you sit down or somebody hands you, it looks like a whole entire massive goose that's on your plate. You probably know just because it's there doesn't mean you have to eat it all. And it
You got
might not,
starving children and
I understand the whole I don't want to leave my food. But if you take that, say, 200 calorie piece of chicken and you eat that 10 times it, now it's a 2,000, and like the little
Mhm.
sneaky stuff, maybe at home you're having just chicken. But then when you're on the road, it's all these different sauces. Now all of a sudden that's extra calories, extra sugars. There's a reason those things taste really good. It could be something simple, like even if it comes down to say portion control and you're sitting there and somebody hands you something and you're like, you know what, this mound of rice looks like a bag of rice. I
Yeah,
typically scoop a cup and I know how much that looks like. I always say if you look like you have too much, eat half,
you do.
give the rest away. Give it to a friend. Say, you know what, I'm sorry, rice, but I have to let you go. Because all those in the moment might seem great. You're going to get filled up. But rice, there's hundreds of extra calories when you're overeating. When you have those extra sauces, it might take that 300 plate of calories to 3,000. A lot of those little dishes, even something sneaky. I'll give you a big sneaky one. The word salads. Most people see salad and it'll be like a sexy name, like the San Francisco persuasive salad with chicken. And you see it and you're like, oh, chicken salad, San Fran chicken treat. This is going to be good. And
Hmm.
you don't look
It'll be
at,
expensive,
yeah,
no doubt.
it's probably like 17, not $25, but
Yeah.
has like little crispy onion straws on it, like fancy stuff. But you're not going to look at the calories on that. But then when you kind of break it down, this happens all the time with the grab and go stuff with like a pre-made salad. I always say check what the label says because it might say 2,500 calories for a salad. But when you see the name that says like San Francisco salad, you're like, oh, this is fine. It's a chicken salad. This is healthy. But when you aren't advised or you're not looking at that label saying, you know what, lettuce is usually this much, chicken's usually this much. This is like 12 times that. What else is in here? And you notice they have some very fancy dressing, like I don't even know, Chilean habanero, some wild, like really cool, enticing name. Like I've never had that. I want to
Yes.
try it. And very quickly, you try it and you learn very quickly why it tastes so good. There's those sneaky,
Sure.
sneaky calories. And A lot of it is just really paying attention to, and this goes back to like the very common sense aspect of it. When you have certain things you have at home, if you mimic that on the road, you're reducing the chance of overeating. At the same time, you're not going so outside the box that it could be a couple thousand calories. It also could not. Like typically when you are trying to get yourself to a place of comfort and knowing that you're making a better decision, it's just keeping things very basic and understanding that there's always going to be that backdoor slider move where something in whatever you're ordering, if you don't recognize it, pay attention to little things like if they have a little bit of a guacamole or it looks like they're giving you the 3 scoop. Sure, it's guac, healthy fats, but it also has calories. And those calories pack a punch when they stack them. So it's just little tiny things when you really start to pay attention. That sneaky stuff, the more you're paying attention to it, the less that will sneak by.
I'm laughing, man, because we never talk about these kinds of foods because I'm not usually going for the 3 scoop.
The 3 scoop can happen quick, especially if they're heavy handed. It
I
can come
know.
down pretty fast.
But that's you got a nice little bump on your paycheck. You go ahead and get them 3 scoops of
Oh yeah.
guacamole.
That took the check up a good 10.
Yeah.
Easy.
But you know what? We're all about abundance here. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm happy if
Spend
people
it.
have the opportunity. Well, so here we are then when you look at like um it's easy to eat health. Well, actually, no, I'll take that back. Sometimes when you are dealing with financial challenges, and I'm speaking generally versus people in the community, not
Mhm.
that folks in the community don't have challenges, but I mean in terms of like if you're in the hood, you're often not you don't have access
Yeah.
to a lot of healthier food choices. So I don't want to say necessarily that you eat healthier when you have less money.
Mhm.
However, if you're able to, in my experience, when I've had less liquidity, I've been able to stick to my diet a bit better because I didn't have many options.
Yeah,
Right?
you're limited in a good
Uh,
way.
exactly. But it's when you've got the cash that you can then start ordering things that taste better,
Yeah.
that have, all the sides and the sauces and all this kind of stuff. That has been a challenge for me. And I'll say that even now, like on the road. So yesterday I was in a position where the only thing available to me were bagged snacks
Mm.
for a long period of the time. There was no fruit around. It was, and I think that I'm answering my own question. It goes back to preparation, right? It's like figuring out a way to have fruit with
Yep.
figuring out a way to before you need it, and you can't always do that. And so in my case, I really again had to just be like, you know what, I'll be all right. Whatever the scale says when I get back home, we'll start from there.
Yep.
And in the meantime, like I won't beat myself up over it. But how do people deal kind of with the moments of slipping, right? Like you're on the meal plan, but then there is that pizza that's calling you. You end up like having the slice or two or
Yeah.
three. What does one do then?
It would be, I like to call it stop, drop, and roll. It's the same thing you do if you're on fire. Same exact thing. If you just think of it that way, an easy example, if you're eating that food, it's like you're feeding that flame. And if you keep standing there, you don't stop what you're doing, realize you're on fire, making a poor choice, you're just going to keep burning. So that's why if you're able to stop, drop into that zone of realizing what you're doing and roll up out of there to a better situation, the faster you can do that, it minimizes the damage. Easy example, when most clients start in the program, everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes. Everyone does. But let's just say the first mistake when you have that, I'm going off the rails. I had 20 slices of pizza for no reason. And then you have that moment early on where it's like, I was supposed to be perfect. I didn't want a mistake. This is not going to work for me. I don't even know why I'm doing this. And let's say a lot of days pass, maybe like 11 days. And then you finally reel it back in. You're like, you know what? Let me just get back after it. Well, that happened the first time. Then the next time you have pizza, it'll happen again. Then maybe you reduce it from 11 days to 6. And then the next day it happens, it'll happen again. Then maybe you reduce it to like 3 or 4 hours. Now that's a huge turnaround to where now it's like you made a mistake, but you're looking for that next win that fast. And you're saying, the pizza's not going to help me. It's going to tear my dream down. How can I build my dream up? And then it says, well, what's the option that I can go for? And it's probably something along the lines of something that will help you, probably something healthier than the pizza. But little things like that, it just gives you the ability to where mistakes do happen. but you're not dwelling on the mistake and staying stuck. You're figuring out a way to get yourself out of that prison and free yourself up to that next positive move where instead of putting yourself down, you're basically pulling yourself up. Like, you know what? I made that mistake, but I got back on track. Now you start to develop that confidence, a little bit of willpower, a sprinkle of self-control. And as you keep going your journey, you just keep sprinkling more. And usually those mistakes are less than, and you're able to get right back to it if you do make one. Because they happen. They happen to everybody. No one's perfect, myself included. But it just, when you get to that level of maybe having a little bit more of the ability to get right back on the path, it reduces the amount of damage that you're going to do. And a lot of that also helps your confidence to say, little blip on the radar, but I'm not just going to fall off this time. Like, I'm getting back on the horse. Just going to keep riding. You know, and it helps you get back to safety.
Oh man, I love the grace that you're able to find for yourself and for everybody else, and saying like, yeah, you fall off and hop back on. Like,
Stop back on.
no matter it really, like, it's not life or death.
Yeah.
Though it is, because you're talking about your health. But it doesn't have to feel that way. Even though you started off this section talking about like slapping that piece of pizza out of your hand when you're mid bite.
Mid bite, get it out of here. Let's get it out.
That's asking a lot. That is not a sprinkle of self discipline.
Yeah,
that is a whole dollar.
Yeah, that's an old school discipline. That's what that would be.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Can we pay you to show up and knock the pizza out of our hand?
I wish I could. I mean, I've talked people off the ledge before. That's as close as I can get through technology. But if there was a way, I'm sure that I would figure it out so I could just smack food out of people's hands left and right and just, you don't need that brownie. Put it down. It's whatever it takes.
Well, listen, this was not the straightforward conversation that I had hoped it would be, but it is always much better than I could have expected, which is just, a couple moments with you, I think, is enough for people to feel like there's hope. There's an opportunity to kind of shift closer and closer to who and how they want to be. I know that's how I feel, whenever we have a chat. It's just like, and I think I attribute that to your own knowing, your own understanding of kind of the way this universe works, this environment in which we live, that it's the internal belief and knowing that affects the external. Mm-hmm. And once we've got stability there, then everything else will come to us, including the right choices, the right and when I say right, I mean aligned with what we're trying to create for ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone has their areas that they are really good in. Habitually very good, very easy for you to win. But then there's those weak areas that maybe you're just not as good. And you always have to think to yourself, how did I become good at whatever I'm good at? You're excellent on camera because you've had a million takes on camera, And when you think about that, how did I get good? I just did it a lot. And it's the same thing with eating. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. But the more that you get the reps, the more your self-confidence gets, because you build yourself into whom you want to become, who you need to become, who you are not on day one. It is just part of the process in embodying who you want to be every day, giving your best effort. And eventually you stick around like anything else long enough, you'll get enough reps in where it will click. And then you'll start understanding. Typically when that happens, you'll look down and be like, oh, wow, I like what I see. You look in the mirror, it's not a frown anymore, it's a smile. And when you go on the road or you're at home, your discipline comes with you. And it just takes time, and it's just all it is just reps, and just every day I'm going to be 1% better. And you truly will eventually get to that. And you'll be able to conquer whatever maybe that was getting in your way. You'll be able to beat the obstacle. And then you'll see who you can be. Like, I see what this is like on the other side, and everything changes because you never want to go back. And that's one of the big things when you change your life. Truly, everything you see changes too.
Mm-hmm. Man, listen, one of the things that you said a while ago that I say to other people, discipline over mood. Mm. And I think, and often people confuse discipline with deprivation. And I don't think it has to be that way. I think it just has to be, what you want to create for yourself. You know what that requires. And, sometimes you aren't able to get to that point.
Yeah.
Right. But as long as you strive for that, no matter how you're feeling, you will get there. And bit by bit, you end up blooming into the beautiful being that you always have.
Yes, that's exactly it. Great remembering. I like that phrase. I'm glad you brought that up. It's the key.
Mm-hmm.
That is the key. Very short. Only 3 words. Discipline over mood, but that's the game changer.
It's what I say when I have that pizza in my hand that's about to go in my mouth. Discipline over mood.
Yeah. You just cry yourself to sleep with that slice. Yeah, I understand. I've had many talks with the pieces of cake, so I get it. I know.
Oh man! So, how can people find out more about what you offer and and connect with you, JC?
Well, the first place, I'm always on all social medias, but Instagram is probably where I'm at the most, at JC of the Finest. It's JCOFTHEFINEST. And my website is where you can apply to the program, just jcofthefinest.com/fitness. And as soon as you click that, the application's right there and super self-explanatory. But I answer every application, every DM, I reply to every comment. So please feel free to reach out at any given time, and I will always get back to you. And if you like the email thing, just jdc@jcofthefinest.com. I answer those too. So wherever way you get a hold of me, I'm always going to message you back.
Bless your heart on not having an assistant. All right. Thank you.
That phone's attached to my hip all day long. Oh, man.
Oh, man. Well, on that note, listen, I'm happy that we have you here as a part of Fly Brother and Friends, health and wellness and well-being, and particularly not just physical well-being, but mental and emotional well-being are the cornerstones of living a life of excitement, of adventure, of intrigue, of romance, of travel, and of being out in the world and connecting across background and boundary. And that's what we do here. So, definitely everybody engage with JC, get started on some of the programs, get tight. And thank you so much for being here, man.
No problem, Ernest. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Talk soon, y'all.
All right.